Hello and welcome back to Introduction to Physics. In this lesson you are going to be doing lab number 21, which is entitled Magnetism. So you're going to want to go to Canvas and then Modules and then Labs, and then you're going to go down to the Unit 4 Labs, which is going to say Electricity and Modern Physics. Okay, then when you open that one up, then down at the bottom you're going to click on the tab that says Lesson 21, and it's entitled Magnetism. Okay, so you have that document open. Alright, now I changed the purpose, so you might want to make note of that. The purpose of this lab is to observe how magnets and current carrying wires interact with each other. Okay, so let's go down to the instructions for the lab. Below is a list of experiments about magnetism. I'd like for you to do as many of these experiments as you can using actual materials. But I realize that that's going to be kind of difficult for you to do because some of these experiments would require very expensive materials, and then other experiments in this list are going to be kind of dangerous for you to do. So if you can't do the experiments for one reason or another, then what you're going to have to do is go to the internet, find these experiments, so find a video about these experiments, and then you're going to write down the address of that experiment in the lab. Okay, so for experiment number 1, you're going to find out how many magnetic poles does a magnet have. So if you've got a bar magnet, then how many poles does a bar magnet have? I think you already know the answer to that. And then how do these poles interact with each other? So ideally you would want to have 2 bar magnets for this experiment, but if you don't, then you can find it on the internet. But I think that maybe you can find 2 bar magnets and find out how the bar magnets interact with each other. Okay, experiment number 2 is going to be what kinds of materials can a magnet pick up. Now this one's actually going to be pretty boring because it turns out there's only going to be 2 kinds of metals that a magnet can pick up. You can find that on the internet and see if you have either. Well, obviously you're going to have one of those kinds of materials just lying around the house, but the other kind of material is kind of rare, and so unless you're from Canada and you have one of those nickels, I don't think that you're going to be able to pick it up with a magnet. But for each of these experiments you're going to write down what materials are you using for the experiment, and then also what's the procedure that you're doing with it, and then what were the results of the experiment. Okay, let's go down to experiment number 3. What does the magnetic field of a bar magnet look like? So there's an experiment that you can do with compasses, putting them around a magnet, and you could also do an experiment with iron filings. So putting a piece of paper over the top of a bar magnet and sprinkling iron filings on it. You could get the iron filings if you wanted to out at the Educational Supply Place, which is on the south side of town, and it's not too expensive, but if you don't want to do that, then just go to the internet and find a video that is showing this. And I want you to be able to draw the magnetic field of a bar magnet. So What you could do is you could either, from the video, take a snapshot of the screen using Snip, which is a computer program that's on your computer, and then the other way of doing it would be to go to Images and then type in magnetic field of a bar magnet, find that image, and then paste it into the lab. So you could do it either way. But you should know what the magnetic field of a bar magnet looks like because you're going to be tested on that. So let's go down to experiment number 4. How can you make a magnet out of a paper clip using another magnet? So now this is one that I think you should be able to do at home. You'll need a magnet. You could even try using one of the refrigerator magnets for this. But if you had a stronger magnet, that would be better. And then take a paper clip, and then you're going to do something with the magnet in order to turn the paper clip into a very weak magnet. So with that paper clip, you might be able to pick up a single staple with it. So we're not talking about very powerful here. You might be able to change the direction of a compass with your paper clip once you've magnetized it. So find a video on the internet that shows you how to do this. Write down the materials that you're going to need for the experiment. Then how did you do it? So what's the procedure? And then what are the results of the experiment? Okay, let's go down to question number 5. Okay, so this is experiment number 5. And now this one you cannot do at home because you're going to need a very strong electric current in order to produce a magnetic field of a straight wire. So now this is one that you're absolutely going to have to do on the internet. And what you're going to be looking for is an experiment in which they have a wire that is sticking up like this, and then normally it's sticking up through a piece of paper that's like this. Okay, then they take compasses and they put them around the wire, and then when there's electricity going through that wire, then those magnets, those little compasses are going to twist, and then they're going to outline the magnetic field of a current carrying wire. So see if you can find a video of that on the internet, and then you're going to type the address of that particular experiment, and then write down the materials that were needed, and then the procedure, and then the results of the experiment. Alright, I'm going to stop the video here, and then when we come back we're going to go to experiment number 6.